For 50 years, they called it a trick. When a gorilla named Koko first started signing to her trainer in 1972, the scientific establishment had an answer ready before the data even came in. It wasn't language, it was clever conditioning. A circus act dressed in academic clothing. The animal, they said, was just reading subtle cues from a human who desperately wanted to believe. For half a century, that was the consensus. The skeptics won the argument. And then something happened that nobody in that 1970s debate could have predicted. We built machines that could listen to animals the way no human ever could. Those machines are now finding, in whales, in elephants, in species nobody was even studying when Koko was alive, is quietly turning the old verdict on its head. This is not the feel-good version. This is what the peer-reviewed science actually shows, and why a generation of researchers who spent decades mocking the idea of animal language are now publishing papers that sound an awful lot like an apology. But first, you have to understand exactly what Koko was accused of, and why the accusation seems so airtight. Let's be precise about the original controversy, because it was real and it was serious. In the 1970s, a handful of researchers taught American Sign Language to great apes. Koko, the gorilla, Washoe and others, the chimpanzees. The results looked staggering. Apes producing hundreds of signs, combining them, apparently holding conversations. The public was electrified. The scientists were not. A linguist named Herbert Terrace, who had run his own ape language project with a chimpanzee, pointedly named Nim Chimpsky, published a devastating critique. When he went back through the footage frame by frame, he argued the magic dissolved. The apes weren't initiating language. They were imitating their trainers, prompted by unconscious cues, stringing signs together in the statistical hope of a reward. There was no grammar, no real syntax. It was, Terrace concluded, an illusion produced by humans who loved their animals too much to see clearly. That critique landed like a hammer. Funding dried up. Ape language research became a career-ending field, a cautionary tale taught to undergraduates about wishful thinking. The door was closed. But here is what got lost in the celebration of that skepticism. Koko, on camera, did things that were genuinely hard to explain away. She didn't have a sign for ring, so the first time she saw one, she signed finger bracelet. She didn't have a sign for mask, so she signed eye hat. Shown a stale piece of cake, she signed cookie rock. These weren't trained responses. They were novel combinations, two known ideas fused in real time to name something she had no word for. That specific ability, taking known symbols and recombining them to build new meaning, has a name in linguistics. It's called compositionality. And it was supposed to be one of the bright lines separating human language from everything else. The skeptics said the combinations were accidents, lucky juxtapositions read as meaning by hopeful humans. For decades, there was no way to settle it, because to test the idea properly, you'd need to analyze thousands of hours of communication, mathematically, without a human in the loop projecting meaning onto it. In the 1970s, that was impossible. Today, it's a research program. This is where the machines come in. Over the past few years, artificial intelligence, the exact same kind of pattern-finding technology behind modern language models, has been turned on the natural world. Not to teach animals our words, to decode theirs. And crucially, these systems have no emotional investment, no desire to believe. They just structure, or they don't. In 2024, a project studying sperm whales used machine learning to analyze their click patterns, the rhythmic coders they fire at each other in the deep. What the algorithms found was not random noise. It was a combinatorial system. Building blocks of rhythm, tempo, and ornamentation that the whales rearranged to produce a vast range of distinct sequences. A structured code with the very property, recombination of small units into larger meaning, that skeptics swore was uniquely human. That same year, researchers analyzing African elephants found something that stopped the field cold. The elephants appear to address one another with individual name-like calls. Arbitrary sounds learned and assigned to specific individuals the way you learned your own name, not an imitation of the other elephant, a label. And when researchers played a particular elephant its own name, it responded. Played someone else's, it largely ignored it. Prairie dogs, studied for decades and now with computational tools, turn out to encode the type of predator, its size, even its color into their alarm calls. A non-profit called the Earth Species Project is now building large AI models trained on animal sounds across hundreds of species, looking for the deep grammar that might run underneath all of it. Notice what's happening here. Every one of these findings comes from wild animals, untrained, with no human holding up a sign and hoping. There is no clever hands, no unconscious cue, no trainer to fool. And the machines keep finding the same thing the Koko researchers claimed they were seeing 50 years ago. Structure, reference, recombination, meaning. Now, let's be exact, because the honest account matters more than the satisfying one. This does not prove Koko spoke English. It does not retroactively validate every anecdote or every breathless headline from her lifetime. The AI is not vindicating the specific claim that a gorilla mastered human grammar. What it is doing is dismantling the deeper assumption underneath the original attack, the belief that complex compositional referential communication is a uniquely human possession, and that any animal appearing to use it must therefore be faking. That assumption was the entire foundation of the case against Koko. And it is the assumption now collapsing, not because of one gorilla, but because of whales, elephants, and machines that cannot be accused of wishful thinking. The skeptics were right about one thing. The 1970s methods were too loose, too human, too eager. But they were wrong about the thing that mattered. They drew a line and declared that nothing on the other side could possibly have language. Koko spent 46 years standing on that line, and the science of the 2020s is now erasing it, from a direction no one in that original fight ever saw coming. There's an irony in how this is unfolding. We spent a century asking whether animals could learn to talk like us. We may have been asking the wrong question the entire time. The real question was whether we were capable of listening, and it turns out we weren't. Not until we built something patient enough and free enough of our own biases to actually hear them. Koko has been gone since 2018. She never knew that the machine would eventually take her side. But somewhere in the deep ocean, sperm whales are clicking in structured code. In the savannah, elephants are calling each other by name. And the field that once buried the idea of animal language is quietly, paper by paper, digging it back up. If this changed what you knew about the minds living alongside us, subscribe. That's what this channel is for, every week. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.